The final whistle has blown at Anfield. The 2025 to 2026 Premier League season is officially over for Liverpool Football Club. And what you just witnessed today was not simply the end of a football match. What you witnessed was the closing of a chapter that will never be repeated in the history of this football club. Mohamed Salah, Andy Robertson, two of the greatest servants this club has ever seen, both walking off that Anfield pitch for the very last time as Liverpool players. And the emotions pouring out of that stadium today told you everything you needed to know about what these two men have meant to everyone connected with this club. But let us not get lost in the sentiment right away, because before we talk about the farewells, before we talk about the tears and the guard of honor and the records that were broken today, we need to understand what was actually at stake for this football club heading into this final day of the season. Liverpool came into this match needing to secure Champions League qualification. That was the target. That was the minimum requirement. And when you consider that this club won the Premier League title just 1 season ago, the fact that Champions League qualification was being described as the bare minimum tells you everything about how difficult this season has truly been. The reality for this club is that finishing 5th in the Premier League, collecting just 60 points, represents Liverpool's lowest points total in 14 years. Let that sink in. 14 years. A club of this size and this ambition finishing 25 points behind champions Arsenal. That is not a small gap. That is a canyon. And the pain of that reality was written all over the faces of the players and the manager as they processed everything that happened today. So what was genuinely at risk today? Champions League football? The financial power that comes with it. The ability to attract top players in the transfer window. The credibility of the project that Arne Slot is trying to build at this football club. All of it was on the line heading into this final day fixture against Brentford at Anfield. And if you are a serious Liverpool supporter, or if you simply care about elite-level football analysis, then you need to stay with me through this video. Because today was not just about results. Today was about identity. Today was about legacy. And today was about what comes next for a club that is now entering a genuine period of transition. If you want this level of analysis on every major Liverpool story this summer and beyond, then hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to give you the full picture. Not headlines, not hot takes, the full picture. Subscribe now and make sure you never miss a breakdown like this one. The match, the records, the moment. Liverpool drew 1-1 with Brentford on the final day of the season. Curtis Jones gave the home side a deserved lead in the 58th minute. 6 minutes later, Kevin Shade equalised for the visitors. And that was how it ended. 1-1. Champions League secured. But the scoreline almost felt secondary to everything else that was unfolding around that football match. Now let us talk about Mohamed Salah. Because what happened today with this man goes beyond football. It goes beyond statistics. But we are analysts here, so let us start with the facts and then work through what they mean. Mohamed Salah delivered an assist today in what was his final ever appearance as a Liverpool player. Now, on its own, an assist in a final game is a beautiful moment. But this was not just any assist. This was his 93rd Premier League assist for Liverpool Football Club. And that number matters enormously, because 93 Premier League assists is now the all-time record for the most assists by any player in Liverpool's history in this competition, surpassing the previous record of 92 held by club legend Steven Gerrard. Think about what that means. Steven Gerrard. The captain, the icon, the man who defined Liverpool for over a decade. And on the final day of his Liverpool career, Mohamed Salah quietly, almost poetically, stepped past that record and wrote his name into the history books one final time. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is who Mohamed Salah is. This is a player who, even on the most emotional day of his time at this club, even with tears in his eyes and the weight of a farewell on his shoulders, still found a way to contribute. Still found a way to make history. The evidence of his quality, his focus, and his professionalism is written in that number, 93. Remember it? Salah speaks. The words that broke everyone. After the match, Mohamed Salah spoke, and what he said revealed a great deal about the kind of man he is and the kind of relationship he built with this football club. He admitted that he cried. A lot. More than at any other point in his entire life. And he described himself as not a very emotional person. So for him to sit there and say he cried more than his whole life tells you the depth of feeling he has for Liverpool Football Club and for the supporters who gave him everything over his years here. He spoke about the club being brought back to where it belongs. He spoke about the players in the dressing room and left them a clear message. He told them the fans will not accept less than everything. He told them the supporters do not care so much about results alone, as long as they see sweat and blood and full commitment on that pitch. As long as they see players who care, those supporters will love them forever. That is not just a goodbye speech. That is a passing of the torch. That is a man who understood what it meant to wear that shirt, telling the next generation exactly what is required. And then the question was asked directly, will he come back? And Salah was firm, clear. No. He said he is not coming back as a player. He said he would be emotional every single time he returned to Anfield. He said he loves everything about the place, but he was equally clear that he does not want people twisting his words or creating false hope about a return. His Liverpool career is finished, and he wanted to leave that message without any ambiguity. That kind of clarity, that kind of emotional honesty is rare in football, and it only adds to the respect that this man deserves. Robertson, the record holder who spoke his truth. Now let us turn to Andy Robertson, because his farewell today carried a different kind of weight. Robertson made his 378th and final appearance for Liverpool today. In the same match, standing alongside Salah, two giants of the same era walking off the same pitch together for the last time. And the numbers around Robertson are equally remarkable. He leaves Liverpool as the defender with the most assists in Premier League history. 60 Premier League assists. 60 from a left back. That is an extraordinary achievement. And it places him ahead of a legendary list including Trent Alexander-Arnold on 59, Leighton Baines on 53, Graeme Le Saux on 44, and Andy Hinchcliffe on 36. Robertson arrived at Liverpool from Hull City for £8 million in 2017. £8 million! And he is leaving as the most productive assisting defender in the entire history of the Premier League. That is the definition of value. That is the definition of what good scouting and player development looks like at its very best. But Robertson did not just leave quietly. He spoke, and what he said was significant on several levels. First, he addressed the elephant in the room regarding the manager. He revealed that he told Arne Slot directly that things have to change if the club wants to succeed. He added that he was not entirely sure Slot felt the same way, but he wished the club all the luck in the world regardless. Now, as an analyst, that statement demands careful reading. Robertson is not issuing a public attack on Slot. He is being honest. He is saying what he believed needed to be said. And the fact that he was not certain Slot agreed with him is a detail worth holding on to. It suggests a difference in perspective between an experienced player who lived through the difficulties of this season and the manager who is now tasked with rebuilding. Robertson then turned his attention outward. During his post-match interview, he took a moment to pay tribute to two people who were also finishing major chapters of their careers on the same day. He spoke about Pep Guardiola, who is leaving his position as Manchester City manager. Robertson was honest. He said Liverpool should have won more Premier Leagues if it were not for Guardiola. He called him a servant to Manchester City and wished him well. That kind of sporting respect, acknowledging a rival's greatness even in a moment of personal farewell, says a great deal about Robertson's character. And then Robertson spoke about Seamus Coleman, the Everton captain, who was also playing his 435th and final game for his club on the very same day in a 1-0 defeat at Tottenham Hotspur. Robertson praised Coleman as one of the Premier League fullbacks he looked up to when he was growing up. He acknowledged that Coleman, signed by Everton for just £60,000 from Sligo Rovers in January 2009, represented even better value than his own £8 million transfer, and he wished Coleman all the best after a fantastic career of service to Everton Football Club. It is a genuinely classy gesture. Two fullbacks from rival clubs ending their Merseyside careers on the same day with one publicly honouring the other. That is what football looks like at its most human. Van Dijk, the captain who remained. While Salah and Robertson said their goodbyes, Virgil van Dijk was also speaking. And what he said painted a very clear picture of how the remaining senior players are processing this season. Van Dijk described Champions League qualification as the only positive from this season. He called it the bare minimum they needed to get out of what he described as a very poor season. He was clear that the focus right now, in this moment, is on saying goodbye to legends of the club. But he was equally clear that the direction from here must be onwards and upwards. He called this the most challenging year of his entire career. Most challenging year. For a player who has experienced injuries, setbacks, and the pressures of playing at the very highest level, that is a powerful statement. It tells you the scale of what Liverpool went through this season. And it tells you that the players themselves are under no illusions about how far below their own standards this campaign fell. But Van Dijk also made headlines for a completely different reason today. A statistical record that has nothing to do with farewells or defeats. Virgil van Dijk played every single minute of every single Premier League match this season. 100% of all available minutes. And he did so at 34 years and 320 days old. That makes him the oldest player in Premier League history to play 100% of possible minutes in a single season, surpassing the previous record held by John Terry, who achieved the feat at 34 years and 168 days old during the 2014-15 season. Aging like fine wine is an understatement. At 34 years old, playing every minute of a Premier League season, that level of durability and consistency is genuinely remarkable. And in a season where Liverpool were absolutely ravaged by injuries across their squad, Van Dijk's availability was arguably one of the most important factors in keeping this club competitive enough to secure that Champions League spot. Arne Slot. One word. One season. And then there is the manager, Arne Slot, who has had to navigate one of the most difficult seasons in recent Liverpool history. When asked after the match to describe the season in a single word, Slot did not hesitate. His answer was simple: injury. That one word carries an enormous amount of weight. Because it is not an excuse. It is a diagnosis. It is a manager looking at his season honestly and identifying the defining factor that shaped everything that happened from August through to May. Slot acknowledged that he and the team were not perfect. He was clear that not every decision he made was the right one. But he was equally clear that every decision he made was thought through carefully. Every call was made with full preparation and consideration. He did not make decisions carelessly. He did not act without thinking. And in a season as chaotic as this one, that kind of disciplined decision-making is worth acknowledging. He pointed out something remarkable about today's match specifically. He noted that today might have been the first time this entire season that there were no academy players named on the bench. Stop and think about that for a moment. Throughout most of this season, Liverpool were so short of fit senior players that they were regularly calling on academy players just to fill out a matchday squad. That is not a minor inconvenience. That is a fundamental disruption to how a top-level club is supposed to operate. Slot also reflected on Liverpool's cup campaign. He mentioned the FA Cup exit, losing to the eventual winners after a defeat at Manchester City. He referenced losing to Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League for the second consecutive season, noting that no team has managed to beat Paris Saint-Germain across 2 games in that competition during this period. He framed these results not as failures of effort or preparation, but as outcomes shaped by circumstance and by facing genuinely elite opposition. And then he looked forward. He was measured and calculated in his optimism. He said that Liverpool brought in a lot of players last season, and when those players are available again, that in itself represents a significant change. He confirmed that the club will also add 1 or 2 new signings. But his central message was clear. The biggest upgrade Liverpool can make next season is simply having a fully fit squad available and ready to compete from the start. That is not a flashy transfer window promise. That is a pragmatic, analytical assessment from a manager who has just lived through a season defined by absence. The guard of honor. The last embrace. Before we close out this analysis, it is important to capture what happened on that pitch today in a human sense. Because football is not just numbers and tactics. It is also moments. Mohamed Salah walked through a guard of honor formed by his teammates. And as he made his way through, he went out of his way to stop and embrace Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, and Alisson. 3 players who were central to the greatest period this club has experienced in the modern era. 3 players who were described in coverage today as the last remaining figures from Klopp's prime Liverpool. And Salah hugging each of them individually, deliberately, in that moment, felt like a final acknowledgement of a brotherhood that was built through years of shared success and shared sacrifice. Robertson and Salah stood together at the end of that pitch and looked out at the Anfield crowd. 2 men who arrived at this club as hungry, talented players with something to prove. 2 men who are leaving it as legends with records that may never be surpassed. Virgil van Dijk, speaking about both of them, said something that every Liverpool supporter felt in their chest today. He said he is definitely going to miss them, and that the club as a whole is going to miss them. what this all means going forward. So where does Liverpool Football Club stand at the end of this season? The situation is one of transition. Real significant transition. Salah is gone. Robertson is gone. Trent Alexander-Arnold left earlier in the season. The spine of the Klopp era is being dismantled piece by piece. Champions League football is secured, and that matters enormously. Without it, the summer transfer window conversation would have been completely different. With it, Liverpool can still attract the caliber of player they need to rebuild properly. Arne Slot has been through the fire in his first full season in charge. He has been tested by injuries, by farewells, by the weight of following a title-winning campaign with a fifth-place finish. And the evidence suggests he understands what went wrong and has a clear-eyed plan for addressing it. The question that now hangs over this club is whether the players who were injured and unavailable this season can return to full fitness and deliver at the level required, and whether the one or two additions that Slot has indicated will be made this summer can genuinely strengthen the squad rather than simply replacing what has been lost. 60 points. Fifth place. 25 points behind Arsenal. That is the reality of this season. Champions League qualification saved it from being a complete disaster. But only just. The next chapter is about to begin. And after a day like today, with all the emotion and the farewells and the records and the tears, Liverpool Football Club must now look forward with clear eyes and a firm sense of purpose. The legends have taken their bow. Now it is time to find out who will step forward to write the next chapter of this club's story. That is the full picture. That is your analysis for today. If this breakdown gave you what you needed, subscribe to Victor Liverpool Analyst right now. Every major story, every important development, every piece of this rebuilding puzzle, we will be here to break it all down for you. Thank you for watching.